Good morning, everyone. Sound is working? Okay,
No?
like that. Sound isn't working. Better or? Okay.
Check. Yes.
Check.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Wim Stalmans. I'm representing here INATBA, the International Association of Trusted Blockchain Applications, in which I'm serving as the co-chair of the Education Working Group. And I'm also the founder and manager of a company called the Blockchain Academy in Luxembourg. Now, first of all, thank you very much to Democracy for All for the invitation and the occasion to discuss with my distinguished panel a topic that is very close to my heart, which is blockchain education. And for today specifically, blockchain education and public administration, and even more specifically, how do we tackle the possibly knowledge gap, blockchain knowledge gap in public administration. It will not be me who will be doing the talk, it will be my distinguished panel. So I propose, first of all, that you guys take a little bit of time to introduce yourselves, give a little bit of your background and how you relate to the topic of today's panel.
Okay, very good. So I will start. My name is Rodrigo Ferreiro. I am the area manager in the Zigurat Global Institute of Technology. We are an institute located here in Barcelona, but we are globally. And we have a specific area working in blockchain. We have a master in blockchain, where we bring international expertise from around the world to bring to boost the learning experience of our students. Okay, so I will be talking a little bit about the educational part in the blockchain technology.
Yeah, many thanks, Wim, for starting this. This might sound okay because it sounds like a market. Oh, sorry for that. So my name is Robin Benninger. I'm the managing director of the Global Institute of Leadership and Technology. We are based out of Frankfurt, Germany. We have a close partnership with our friends at Ziggurat, where we're running the global masters in blockchain technologies since basically 2016. So we're pretty experienced with bringing education in the blockchain space also on an academic level there. And in parallel, I'm also the initiator of the Global Blockchain Initiative, which is a global non-profit educational activity where we are bringing blockchain knowledge into local ecosystems from a global scale. Because one of the biggest challenge, and probably opening the panel with that also from my perspective, is that we need for a distributed technology also distributed knowledge. And right now we are pretty centralized with the knowledge around blockchain. Jürgen, over to you.
That's right. Hello, I'm Jürgen Goossens. I'm Associate Professor of Public Law, Constitutional Law, and Administrative Law. So I'm looking from a legal angle, but I'm always cooperating with others. So I'm head and project leader of Chain, which is a wing to blockchain, but also looks at the issue or the example from a broader perspective, because Chain represents connecting humankind through algorithms, smart contracts, and information networks, where a lot of data is going around and is being used. And we look at it from an interdisciplinary perspective, from the technical aspect, but also the STS aspect and the legal aspects. And I actually do think that closing the knowledge gap is important in many areas, also in the blockchain area. And one of the things one could do that is, for instance, by knowledge clips, etc., so that you think really hard how to explain a topic in 5 or 10 minutes, where every word counts, so to speak. That might be one way to close the knowledge gap, and you can find these clips on YouTube.
Very well. Thank you, guys. I'm a little bit biased. For me, the most important technology is blockchain. And I also think that it's of huge importance that our policymakers, our public services, adopt the technology. Now, the first element, of course, is to know the technology and what it can do, what the implications are. I would like to submit the question to you. What exactly and specifically for public administration is needed as knowledge, as blockchain knowledge? Who wants to go first?
I mean, that's a bold question because it raises the question of what is knowledge anyway. I think that's something that we need to especially appreciate in technology fields, be it blockchain, be it quantum, be it AI, whatever, is that the developments are happening so fast that the only answer to that is constant learning. And I see this encouragement of the learning process rather than trying to find this absolute knowledge is fundamentally important, especially in these technology sectors. Just like look into 2016, 2010, whatever, this is just like 10 years ago. And if we would have talked about blockchain in 2010, everybody would have laughed at us, right? If people did that. Now we have a whole conference in the middle of Barcelona where people from around the world come together to discuss about these kind of things. And we need to appreciate and respect these developments in technology and encourage people to learn and really stay with that and not trying to find like the absolute answer. And I like, frankly speaking for myself, right? Even though we're dealing with blockchain basically since ever, I haven't understood everything and I can't keep up with everything. That's pretty much it, right? There's so many protocols, there's so many different kind of things out there, which is good. And we need this dialogue on this level. We need this collaboration on this level and this willingness to learn in the first place and to deal with that and not just like, oh, I did a master's program, I did a short course, whatever, and now I'm an expert for the next 10 years. No, it's a constant journey where you always need to keep up with these things and have like also this interest in this topic and have those open conversations about that.
Well, in my project, we are being subsidized by the Dutch government, by 4 ministries, for instance, and I'm also advising with my group other government bodies. And there's always the question, how do you convince high officials that it's interesting to invest in blockchain technology? And I can assure you that they often don't have the time to really grasp what blockchain technology is. But I will say more, I don't think that that is of essence. I do think that it is very important that you are able to explain what blockchain technology might mean for public administration in very concrete cases. And to a certain extent, it is the challenge to ask the right questions. So you should ask a high-level official, what do you want? For instance, are we in a network governance reality? Yes, we are. Could we benefit from digitization? Yes, we are. So could blockchain be a way to try to achieve digital network governance? Potentially. Do we need registration of data? Do we need a secure transfer of value? Do we want an automatic execution of rules? Yes, and then we can start the discussion. So I think that rather than dropping the blockchain bomb, so to speak, we have to talk about reality and how technology, in this case, blockchain, might improve public administration. And when you start from that angle, it is my feeling that there will be much more success of trying to convince high officials in public administration that at least it is valuable to look at the potential use of blockchain technology. And sometimes people who are in the position to convince high-level officials, they find this perspective quite convincing and quite enriching, because they don't have to start by explaining what the blockchain technology is and that smart contracts are not smart but deterministic and that they can be contracts. But okay, what is the reality? Is it a distributed reality? Could we benefit from digitization? Yes, well, maybe we could try to look at blockchain. I think that's one of the perspectives to produce blockchain knowledge. But on the other hand, when we really start implementing blockchain and when we go further than use cases, than proof of concepts, then we need people in practice who are able to implement that technology and pair it with existing legal rules, with principles of due diligence, reason giving, etc. And then you need knowledge of blockchain that goes much further. But you start with convincing high-level officials to put money into the project, and then you start training people on the ground. That will be of essence. But when you look at public administration, it often ends with proof of concepts, use cases. So I do think that there is a huge knowledge gap, but it's not that urgent as we think.
Okay.
In my case, and I will say that, and I will bring my point of view from the educational part, no? So I think that doesn't matter if it's public or private organization, we already know that blockchain is impacting and different points of our life, no? And I believe that it's important when you're talking about education and in the public administration, that this education actually should be connected, no? Connected with the different expertise around the world, and to bring the last trends or the thing that is working around the world in the public organization. No? So I believe that, yeah, we need to train these people. They have to need this technical and knowledge. They can bring as well the business, some business models from the private sector to the public sector as well. No? So yeah, I think that the educational part is very important, no, to the adoption of the technology.
Got it. So I hear a few elements coming forward now. When talking about public administration, policymaking, public services, maybe in contrast to the private sector, there is some specific need that is more society-oriented. Do we have a role there with public administration? Do we as educators also need to develop specific programs that allow for agents in public administration to grasp maybe a medium long-term effect from blockchain on society? Who wants to go first?
Take this one first again. I have a similar answer to that, what I said before, but I want to put also probably a different perspective in there, because like for me, like this part of learning and staying with this technology is really important from this perspective. But I think if we distinguish between like a corporate world or in a public world or a society world, however you want to frame this, right? What we see is that we have a huge technology understanding gap in general in our society. And I think this even starts way, way earlier. So I think we can't limit this to blockchain, right? We have this fundamental problem that a lot of people still, I mean, we had it in the keynote Web 2.0, right? So a lot of people don't even understand these kind of things and the implications behind it. And this is something what I totally sign what you said, right? What is the implications behind it? So I think nobody needs to be like a blockchain technology expert in a certain protocol or from a technical understanding, have answers on all these cryptographic elements and how hashing works and all these kinds. That's great when you know that, right? But this is when you're really interested in that and when you're on the ground building stuff. But I think what is even more important to understand here, what are the implications of that? And when we're talking about the implications, we need to have, first of all, a better understanding where we're coming from, which I think we massively lack in education from the early school days, right? How can it be that people have an A-level exam and can't really handle a computer well or understand what's going on there? How can this be? This open question. And then the second part, how can we teach, and this is something that probably resonates pretty well with what you're doing with Cigarette. How can we teach then, for example, in an MBA program, people how to deal with data by not teaching them how data works, right? We're teaching Excel courses, which doesn't make sense. So we need to distinguish between this level of what are the implications, what can the technology actually do, and how can it have an effect on society, politics, whatever. And then we need this groundwork, deep dive understanding where we really build stuff that we can use, whatever that might be a proof of concept, might be a prototype, might be whatsoever. But I think having this distinguishment between those two levels are really important. And now we are at the forefront, even though we're talking here about democracy for all and blockchain, one of those really important things that we need to understand, I think, is that the implications is happening at the technology intersections now, where we talk about blockchain meets artificial intelligence, meets quantum computing, meets robotics, meets IoT, and so on and so forth. This is nothing that you can grasp, right? But you can understand the implications behind that and then work towards potential solutions that have a positive impact on the life of the people. And frankly speaking, I believe there's only two challenges existing on this planet. The ones are totally global, like climate change, nature, and stuff like that. And then you have the local implications on that. So how do you translate this into local actions for Catalonia, for Barcelona, for Germany, for Frankfurt, for whatever country on this planet, for whatever local community? Global implications, global problem identification, and then local action. And that's I think, where the magic is happening. That's why I think I totally signed this. We need to understand way better what are the implications that are coming around the corner, and then have people that are capable of doing something with the actual knowledge and build something out of that.
Yeah, I very much resonate with that. And I actually think that we shouldn't address or look at this topic and make it too complex, because a lot of the issues that are arising are actually very comparable when we look at the use of simple algorithms in public administration decision making, for instance, because smart contracts, they are no more or no less than if A then B algorithms. So we shouldn't make it overly complex by saying smart contracts and, ooh, that's something. No, it's just a very simple algorithm. And public authorities have been using algorithms right now for decades, for instance. So when we talk about how can the use of blockchain be legally compliant in public administration, actually the same questions arise that have arisen already for decades, so to speak, like how to comply with principles of good administration, due diligence, reason giving, the right of citizens to be heard, which might be a challenge, for instance, when you're using blockchain. So a lot of the questions that are arising are basically the same. And often with new technologies, everything is being a bit fuzzy, and you know, when there's a trend, people are confused, but let's just get things straight. It's not that complex. That is one of the challenges, I think, that, you know, let's not say that, you know, we are using smart contracts when people really don't understand what we are talking about. We just say we use algorithms in a decision-making process. And then you can resonate even with people who don't have that specific blockchain knowledge. So, I mean, if people know about blockchain, let's talk about hashes, etc. But otherwise, let's keep things simple and not overly complicate. Because when I'm using Facebook, when I'm getting off the stage, I also don't really grasp or know how the algorithm works, but I use it and it's fine in that sense. So let people look all from their angle. Let's talk to each other, because that's important, like the interdisciplinary dialogue from the beginning by design. I do think that public administration officials should really talk to software developers, asking, okay, what is the implication of using blockchain-based smart contracts in this case? And then software developers might maybe not be interested in that dialogue, but that's a very important one, because they will probably not think about due diligence, the right to be heard, etc. Well, these are very pressing issues in public administration, because in public administration, public authorities will be held accountable for their action, being held accountable by the minister, who is accountable to Parliament, and Parliament in the end is accountable to the citizen. And of course, there are so many ways from a concrete implementation to a citizen voting for their representatives. And we don't need very specific knowledge in that chain of accountability. And in order to make that chain of accountability work, the knowledge should be right. We shouldn't have fake news, but we shouldn't also overly complicate it, because the regular member of Parliament also don't really grasp what's going on in the algorithmic information society.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think this is a good point to make a transition to our second central topic. How can we proceed? How could we proceed to bridge that knowledge gap? Could you develop a little bit?
Yeah. And actually, I would like to bring what Robin was mentioned, that we have the global stage and the local needs. And I think that democracy for all is that about. Because at Zigurat, what we are doing actually, we are dedicated to education, to train people, but in a very particular way. No, we are an online institute, and what we want actually is to bring this global expertise to the student. No, and it actually could be here at Barcelona as well. No, so and we bring this global expertise with a hands-on experience, so they actually they adopt the technology by a methodology learning by doing. No, because what we want here is to promote the hands-on experience. And I believe that this is the best experience that actually we can promote from the professionals that join our community to get and to learn these skills. No, because as well we promote a multi-sectoral approach. No, and yeah, and we believe that actually this is the best way to get and to adopt the technology. No.
Okay. There is a huge lack, generally spoken, of sufficient instructors. So I kind of love what you're bringing forward to learn by doing. Now, even the instructors need to learn, and the space is so new that it is an evolving matter. Robin, I know that you have a particular approach and conviction on how blockchain should be educated, with a focus on more short-term than long-term programs. Could you develop a little bit?
Yeah, it comes pretty much back to what you just said, was making things complicated, right? So, and by the way, we had this discussion yesterday shortly on the side, right? Is to say, like, how deep do you want to actually go and how much content can you deliver, right? And especially with the speed of these technologies, if you study something like that for 2 years, most things that you started with are outdated by the time you arrive, right? So especially in blockchain, it's going really, really fast. And then at the same time, you have a lot of noise, especially in blockchain. So, and I think blockchain has one particular access problem. The one side is way too complicated, way too fancy and hidden behind whatever kind of research walls. And the other thing is Shiba Inu going to the moon on YouTube, right? These are the two extremes you're having. And if you have no idea what you are starting with and you go to YouTube, right? So when I first got in contact with blockchain, it was at the times where still people were talking about Bitcoin rather than blockchain, right? So that was the Bitcoin was blockchain, and now we have figured out, no, it's actually not, right? So, so back in the days, it was the opposite, right? There was basically nothing out there, so you needed to send emails to people and say like, hey, can you explain me something about that, blah, 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 blah. And now if you go to the typical sources, you either find horrible, complicated academic papers, or you find like these meme coins and how to get rich with crypto stuff on YouTube. So it's a lot of challenge, or it's a big challenge to find like the sweet spot of what knowledge can you first of all trust and what kind of knowledge can you actually digest. Looking at it from what we're doing, for example, with the Global Blockchain Initiative, right, where we're running local hubs all around the world, and we're on all continents, right? We're everywhere in Africa, we're everywhere in Southeast Asia, we're in Latin America, North America, Europe. So we're basically everywhere. You have ecosystems, like for example, our Singapore hub has no problems at all with finding people that are competent and talking about blockchain technologies, because it's an ecosystem where there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of those foundations. So that's all easy. If you go into other areas of the world, right, even like Colombia or Zambia, where we're running hubs, or even the Balkans, which is probably a little bit closer to Barcelona, there's not so many people that are actually dealing with that on this level. And even if they're dealing with that, you also need this level of educating, because teaching something is a whole thing of itself, right? We have seen many great people that come from a technical perspective that you lose after slide 5, right? Because it's too complicated, it's too hard, and people don't have like the skill of actually teaching. And that's why we're big advocates for also integrating in basically every learning program where you are learning something, also elements of how you can actually teach that, right? How can you create these spillover effects in your organization, in your party, whatever. And I think that's really fundamentally important, that we get more into this organizational setup, whatever that means in the end, right? Where everybody is a learner and everybody is a teacher, because then you can create these spillover effects, right? Because probably you like I don't know, in blockchain terms, you like Ethereum, right? And I like Algorand or Cardano or whatever, so we can have a discussion there. But it's pretty unlikely that we both will be experts on both of them, because it's just way too complicated and way too much to cope with. So you need to have like this balance, and you need to have like this, let's call it connecting points of knowledge, of teaching, of learning, where you can digest with that. And this is just like an open invitation to everybody, right? If you know something, teach it, because that's amazing. If we can teach more, people will be happy on this platform.
Yeah, I go ahead.
Well, and if I can make it very concrete, because I'm also giving a lot of master classes in blockchain, etc. And in my experience as a professor at university, but also teaching in very different areas and domains, one, it's knowledge transfer. Like everybody should have a core foundation of what blockchain is, what smart contracts are. And I think you could build that in 1 or 2 hours, like a very basic foundation. And then people go home and after a few days, they forget about it usually. But if you want to make teaching effective, you should involve people. You should let people interact with the content. And one very simple and concrete way to do that, when I teach a masterclass, I always end with a task. And the task is the following: try to compile a blockchain impact assessment. And not that a blockchain impact assessment is a holy grail, etc., but it basically challenges you to think about which questions should be asked. One, whether or not it is a good opportunity to use blockchain, whether or not the benefits outweigh the disadvantages, and also what are the right questions to ask with regard to privacy, with regard to legal compliance, with regard to digital literacy in public administration, for instance. And when people engage by trying to compile a list of 10 or 20 or 30 questions, they engage with the material, and I can assure you that their knowledge of blockchain and that session that you are giving in 2 hours or 2 days will increase a lot, because they ask the right questions, they engage with the material, and that is one way to close the knowledge gap, I think, also in public administration. Let people engage with a certain core foundation of what the technology is, and if you do that, very interesting things happen in a room. Yeah.
Yeah. We have 4 minutes remaining, and I have still 1,000 questions for you. So I'm going to make the choice for the following. Should public administration see blockchain as a tool that helps to optimize the apparatus of public administration, or should they see it as a new socio-economic model to which they need to adapt? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. And I'll keep it short when I look at the time, because time is of essence here. I think that bringing blockchain into the conversation about public administration, for me, that is the most important. The concrete implementations of blockchain in public administration, they will increase, but it's increasing very slowly. But I do think that it challenges people also in public administration to ask the real questions. Is there a distributed reality? Yes. Could digitization be efficient? Yes or no? And for me, that is of essence in public administration. It challenges us to think that public administration and exercising public authority is not only unilateral, it's not only the government telling citizens how to act, but increasingly it's network governance, it's private and public parties working together. And I do think that blockchain and the way it could contribute to democracy, that's a very important newcomer in the debate of how to organize public administration.
Yeah, totally sign that. I think the purpose of technology is just being technology, right? It's what we humans decide to do out of that that gives it a higher meaning, right? And I think every technology, be it blockchain or whatever, also has like this call for us to rethink our world, right? Because things are only happening because we define them like that, right? And like in this blockchain discussion, you always have like this discussion about what's the new money. I mean, money has only, it's just printed notes, right? That we committed and say like, hey, if you get a piece of paper with a 10 on it, you and me agree that it's 10 euros or whatever worth, right? This is just a story between you and me. That's not the paper. And the same happens now to blockchain, right? We need to create these new stories for our society and find the connecting points and give this technology a purpose, like we did with the steam engine, like we did with electricity, whatever, right? The technology is there. It's an open invitation to collaborate. It's an open invitation to co-create something. And we need to now raise this question. So I think it's not like this discussion is one thing replacing the other. No, it's just evolving, and we just need to create something out of that, even if the answer is we don't need it. Disclaimer, cliffhanger, I'm not in this part of this discussion, but I think we need to have this discussion, like what's the purpose of the technology, and not just always scream technology, technology, blockchain, blockchain, without really understanding what we're talking about, coming back to the implications. So I think that's my call here for public administration to create this new system, whatever it is. It will be beautiful, and I'm excited to wait and can't wait to see it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, in my case,
from Cigarettes.
Yeah, in my case, I believe that I'm not. You will put the technical part. What is the speed that the public administration should adopt the technology now? But I think that is really important to be connected. No, public administration or the private sector. Because once you are connected, you know what is happening. And when you know what is happening, you are connected with the global expertise, and then you can define a roadmap. No? So this is my message, no? To be connected. No?
Okay, thank you. Checking the time, Well, that's quite good planning. I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you very much for sharing your views, guys. Much appreciated. Invitation for the audience, and a little bit my conclusion of this panel discussion. Let's all, from our own point of knowledge, continue learning by teaching the others. And yeah, I think that something that came forward is the very specific, concrete approach that is needed in order for people to grasp, and public administration specifically, to grasp how blockchain can be of utility. So thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. Hope to speak to you afterwards. Bye.
Thank you, Wim.
Thank you.